I'm going to say a little bit about history, and then I'm going to talk about Warhammer. I'm going to tell you a story a little bit about a guy named George Lincoln Rockwell. I'm doing this all from memory, and I'm not a historian. There's just a little bit of his story I want to talk about. If you want to know a lot about him, there's a few episodes of the Behind the Bastards podcast about him, and that's how I know about him. But dude was a Nazi. He was a straight up Nazi. And his legacy is he, spread hate across decades, and he was, a horrible person. But what he would do is he wanted to stir the pot. He wanted to get attention. He wanted to create spectacle, and he did. He would show up places in full Nazi uniform and go places in public where he knew that there would be people who would be upset. And of course, when he went to these places, people got upset. But what he was looking for, he wasn't trying to change anybody's mind at the events. What he was looking for was to create the spectacle itself. And so, if he goes somewhere and people get violent with him, of course that makes it to the news. Think about your own life. When people start a fight somewhere, you hate violence, but you still stop and watch. It's what people do. And so this is a problem because this dude is making it into publications. There's no internet at the time, but he's making it into the newspapers. And he's not trying to influence, everybody, because most people aren't going to fall for his garbage. What he's trying to do is get his message out to those hurt people, those mentally unhealthy people, the people who are, could be victimized by the message, the people who maybe don't have a home or a support group, who are in need, and he offers, a place to go, or even not just that, he offers someone to blame. Hey, it's not your fault you're miserable, it's this other color, this other religion, this other kind of person. And so he's trying to get the attention of the vulnerable and to pad his numbers, to make his cause greater. Now, of course, this man has to be stopped, but here in the beautiful USA, we have free speech, and we are reluctant to pass any laws infringing on free speech, even if it's for Nazis. In America, we have to support free speech, even for Nazis, because if it's not for everybody, if you make a law that can hinder it for one person, then that law can be used in the future to hurt other groups. So we don't want any of those laws to be made saying no, infringing anybody's free speech. So what are you going to do about it? Because this guy's clearly dangerous and he's spreading his dangerous message. So what the authorities of the day did is they went to the publishers, they went to the newspapers, and they began a policy that they called quarantining. And what the policy was is they just politely asked the publishers of the day to not write about George Lincoln Rockwell, to not write about Nazis. When they were out trying to get the attention and make the spectacle, everybody in the publishing community was encouraged to just not talk about it. Let them exist in their own disgusting dark corners, and we will just get on with our lives. And this worked, and I think it worked for a long time. I think that the Nazis, the white supremacists, I'm sure they existed in the world, but I'm an older guy, and I don't remember it being a problem. I live in a very comfortable place too, so I'm sure it was a problem in a lot of places, but I think quarantining was a good thing. And that's the only bit of George Lincoln Rockwell's story I want to get in now. Again, there's an episode of Behind the Bastards on him if you need to learn about a horrible Nazi. I believe at the end he gets murdered by one of his followers, which isn't that how Nazis always end up? Anyway, now that we tell that story, I want to get into the Warhammer space. Recently, and by recently I mean like literally less than a year, just recently, I keep seeing people in my media who are coming into my Warhammer space who I don't recognize, who aren't usually in my Warhammer space, and throwing out a lot of bad messaging. And I don't want to get into any in particular controversy. I don't want to start garbage on my channel, and I don't want to conflict with anybody, anything like that. But I see these people in these spaces stirring this pot, and I often feel like these are people from outside using drama inside my community to try to further their own hateful agenda. And yeah, God, I don't want to get into it, but particularly like, so when the female custodian thing happened, if you hit the search engine on YouTube at the time and punched in Warhammer 40,000, there was a lot of noise there. A lot of noise from a lot of busters, right? And then currently this week on Reddit, if you're on Reddit, there was some drama there as well. And I know it's not the majority. You know, it's just this small group of people. There's this small group of people making this noise because they got to hate somebody, or they got to feel superior to somebody, whatever reason they got to do this. There's this small group of people making all this noise, but they're in my space, and I'm embarrassed by them because new people are going to come get on Reddit, and they're going to get on YouTube, and they're going to type in Warhammer 40,000, and they're going to find these people. And I don't want them to be ambassadors to my hobby, and I want everyone to feel welcome in my hobby. If an equal number of women played Warhammer to men, I would have twice as many people to play with, which still wouldn't be a lot of people, but God, I'd be grateful. I do want it to be for everyone, and I don't want these certain voices to be a wall to anyone getting in. And I think their ideas are unhealthy. I think we as a society, what is the society for? We're here to help each other. Who are each other? We're everybody. And everyone should have rights and freedoms and protections. And if you're against that, whatever your rhetoric is, because they're never straightforward about it either. They never just get in your face about what they're trying to say. They always want to sneak around the back door. Well, how do you feel about this stupid shit? Whatever. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is there's no newspapers anymore. There's no publishers. I mean, they are, but they're irrelevant. But we can't go to the group that gets the message out and say, could you please quarantine these people? Because those outlets aren't available to us anymore. But what we can do as a community, as the tabletop miniature community, we can quarantine them ourselves. We do not want to interact with these people. They're not trying to make a point to you. They're not trying to convince you of anything. They're trying to make noise and get the attention of the people who they might seduce into their causes and their beliefs. I encourage you, my friends, that when you're on your YouTube and something comes up that doesn't sound quite right to you, or maybe if you go, oh, it's these guys again, you can click on the little button under the video and you can hit don't recommend channel, and then that channel won't come up on your feed anymore. Because if you click on it, you just tell the algorithm that you want more of it, and you also might be telling that algorithm that maybe other people might want more of it. So just don't click it. We don't need to spread that around. Hit the button that says do not recommend. Don't watch that garbage anymore. The same thing goes for Reddit. If you got some buster on Reddit trying to stir the pot, saying things that he's just saying because he wants to upset you, hit the block button. Hey man, block. I don't need to listen to your noise. And because you surely don't need to engage with him, because when you engage with him, all you do is give him more opportunities to speak his nonsense. It is up to us in our community to police our own community. And the best way to do that is to keep the yucky creatures who are lurking around our community huddled in the darkness where they belong. By the way, I'm sorry I had to make this video. I try really hard to be a clown. I really like my little quiet corner of YouTube. I like my little channel. I don't really want to fight with anybody. But I do strongly believe that the best thing for all of us is when these people show up in our spaces to not interact with them. Hit the block button, be done with it. And that's what I have to say about that. Happy wargaming, everybody.